560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We were talking about those old pals, Kamala and Tim, sitting around talking about building winning culture, building winning programs. Because for those who don't know, I mean, Tim Walz was to high school football what John Wooden was to college basketball. Oh, really? Got a bunch of coaches around, took a program that was not successful. Kids didn't want to play. Built a winning culture as a volunteer linebackers coach or something. Mm-hmm. And then they won state championships and continued to win state championships. Winning culture. And then Kamala makes the point exactly, and that's what we're doing with this campaign. Yeah. We're building.
He was an assistant to the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, okay, whatever. Same difference as a volunteer. Yeah, well, that's integral. And he was able to bring these other coaches together and drive the train, being the linebackers coach or volunteer assistant, defensive coordinator, whatever. Sure, that's how it happens in programs.
Because remember, he got a DUI in Nebraska for going 96 in a 55 zone and told the officer he was deaf because he served in war.
Right.
PTSD
from that deployment to Italy. Yeah. Kamala and him kicked around a few other topics, too, as friends do. And fortunately, again, there was a camera there to catch it so we can all enjoy it. Like, real authentic moments where they're not on. They're just being real people talking food. And this comes off like a episode of According to Jim. Because that's what Walt says. He's a big, dumb lummox. He's the dad on a bad sitcom.
Like I have white guy tacos and
what is
like
that?
black,
like mayonnaise and tuna? What are you doing?
pretty much ground beef and cheese.
That's okay. Do you put any flavor in it?
No.
Oh.
Here's the deal. No, they said to be careful and let her know this, that black pepper is the top of the spice level in Minnesota,
I'm the first vice president, I believe, who has ever grown chili peppers.
I'm trying to expand my food knowledge.
You know what? We've got some cantaloupes. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey, save those cantaloupes for Dog Emhoff, honey.
I got your cantaloupes right here. Did she just say we have cantaloupes?
White guy tacos, and I don't like spicy food because I'm a vanilla oaf from Minnesota, don't you know? But I'm accessible. These people are delightful, so enjoyable. Wouldn't you pay any amount of money to be able to break bread with Kamala and Tim?
I want to have a white man's taco.
Talk about everything from high school football to food. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Scott McKay, publisher of the Hayride, senior editor of the American Spectator, and author of Racism, Revenge, and Ruin, as well as King of the Jungle. Scott, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning. And I hope you guys are prepared for a week of staying in your houses so that the pro-Hamas people don't get you as they rampage through the city.
Well, why would you go out when you can enjoy this kind of programming like we were just enjoying with just a couple of regular folk, talking about the things that we talk about, Scott?
You hit the nail exactly on the head with this whole, Tim Walz is like the dumb white dad on the sitcom thing. And this election may very well be a referendum on how sick and tired people are of that trope, because it's like this literally is how Democrats see straight white guys.
Yeah,
you're the idiot on the TV commercials and the sitcoms. That's who you are. Vote for Kamala, dumb white guy.
Yeah, there's going to be a moment where she just does like a oh Tim, like you get at every sitcom, which God, Dad doesn't know anything, right, ladies? God, it's just
that's exactly right. So meanwhile, it's communist economics and it's word salad. Let me rephrase that. I've been told that we're not supposed to use word salad to describe what she says anymore. They're actually word slaws, because when you make coleslaw, you run the cabbage through a shredder, and that's pretty much what Kamala does to the English language.
Word slaw, right?
So we should say word slaw instead of word salad.
I like that. Put a little hot sauce on that, because she's a spicy number. Rita Moreno.
Oh, yeah.
Gross peppers in the garden.
Now, on the flip side, this weekend, lest we forget about Trump, although I think actually the focus on Kamala helps Trump. But anyway, lest we forget about him, he had a little rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and this is what he had to say.
80 days from now, we are going to defeat a communist known as Kamala Harris. She's a communist. Most radical left person ever to run for office. This is not what this country needs. We've had enough of them. We're going to win back the White House, and we're going to take back our country.
And I mean, that's sort of, the branding to some extent, but he also, there's a little bit, it feels like they're getting a little bit more on stride here. For example, this video also over the weekend, right after she rolled out her back in the USSR price controls, Trump focused on prices.
Look at this. This is the cost of food. This is the cost of your basics. Every single thing is up. Eggs up 48%. Cookies up 27%. Look at what's going on. Butter up 31%. And this is just the beginning. It's a disaster.
And there were displays of these various foods with the numbers there for your viewing pleasure online. So what's your sense of where the Trump campaign is as it's starting to maybe figure out how to figure out Kamala?
Well, I was never really on board with the idea that Trump was flailing or that they didn't know how to handle the switch from Biden to Harris. I never really bought that. I think, and they didn't get anywhere near enough credit for what they were actually doing. When she was made the nominee, it was very predictable that the Democrats were going to try to turn her into a cultural phenomenon rather than a political one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that you could just ignore that and talk nothing but policy. First of all, 80 days is still a very long time in politics. And you want to really save your best arguments, not necessarily for last, but certainly for the time when people are really locked in and paying attention. And I think that you needed to deal with the cultural phenomenon piece first. So you had some of these things that, might have looked like they came off as lead balloons, like when Trump talked about how Kamala was Indian before she was black and some of these other things. You needed to poke some holes in that balloon, because otherwise, you get basically what happened back in 2008 with Obama, which was they turned him into a cultural phenomenon, and then there was no beating him. It's not as easy to do this with Harris because she doesn't have the novelty associated with her the way Obama did. I mean, she's not the first, potential black president. That's already done. You could do the whole first woman thing, but that's not really a thing because Hillary was their nominee. She's currently the vice president and has a record as vice president. So politically, there's not much there, but, they did this whole thing of, she's hip and she's cool. And I think you needed to at least poke some holes in that. I think that's what the Trump campaign was doing, and everybody was yelling at them, talk policy, talk policy, talk policy. Well, I think that you're going to start to see that largely because they've kind of withstood that sugar high of polling for a couple of weeks and the all of these narratives about how she's truly changed the race. That's not really true anymore. And so now you actually have a race between two politicians rather than, between Trump and whatever, Andy Warhol meets Mother Teresa or whatever it was that they were trying to make Kamala into.
Well, how do you think Trump should handle her at the debate? Because I think that's when we're going to see her true colors. Because she's going to be, treated with kid gloves by the media. She's going to have, probably a little uptick this week with the DNC, and then it's going to get real September 10th.
Yeah, like if I'm Trump, I'm gonna talk policy, but I'm also going to, as politely as it's possible for him to do, talk capacity and talk capability, because I think most people deep down realize she's not very smart. Right. There's a reason why when she speaks, she doesn't say anything. And they've been trying to hide her, but there's something of sort of a Chauncey Gardner thing going. She says something completely inane, and they're trying to make it as though it's brilliant. I think you try and poke holes in that as much as you possibly can. And I think that, turn to her and ask her very specific questions. Hey, do you realize that price controls always fail and always create shortages? Why do you want the American people to suffer from shortages? And make her answer that question in a way that has some meaning to it, because that's generally not how she speaks. I mean, I would do everything I could to show the voters a contrast between a guy who actually knows how to do things and make them work and a lady who really doesn't have a clue.
Yeah, I think
that is helpful.
Yeah, I think I agree that he should sort of position himself as a pragmatic problem solver. But what you were talking about with the whole she was Indian before she was black, I have the same reaction that you did. And what Trump was really setting up, and he sort of got to it in Atlanta, fake versus fight. I think, he was just sort of looking for a handle, and I think he sort of found the handle when he uttered that in Atlanta. Everything about her is phony. And for me, I would start at the debate. I know the conventional wisdom again, just like all the Nikki Haley talk policy, just focus on tax rates and inflation. It's more than that. It's you do that in addition to, but you frame it so that it reinforces a brand that you're trying to impose on your opponent. And she is helping because of, forays like her and Tim Walz talking about food. I mean, could anything be less authentic? Yeah. But it starts with the lie that she told that is the predicate for her candidacy, the lie about Biden and his condition. Yep. She had to know, right? She had to know. She knows. So she participated in this conspiracy of fools to try to buffalo the American people about Biden's capacity. So she was lying about him until it was time for her to lie on behalf of herself. And it just speaks to even the basis of her candidacy is unauthentic. Everything about her is fake. The position she was taking then, the position she's taking now, because you want to brand who she was really in service to, and that's the closer. She is in service to the same radical left that you see outside the DNC, the same radical left that Biden served for the last 4 years, that frankly Obama served for his 8 years, and she is just a cipher for them. So it's sort of about setting her up as a cipher and then explaining who she really is going to work on behalf of, these positions that they take and that she has previously taken and will again, that are run afoul of the supermajority in most cases of where Americans are.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I also think you've got to, you don't have to plant the seed because most people already get it. Hammer home the idea that you can make Kamala Harris president. She's not actually who's going to be running the country. You will not know who's running the country with Kamala Harris, just like you do not know who's running the country with Joe Biden. Whereas if you elect Trump, you can actually hold Trump accountable for his job as president because he will serve as president. He will actually be the guy in charge. That's something I don't think the GOP has done a very good job over the last 4 years of ginning up, resentment towards, look, the ruling class in this country, we all know, has done a bad job. Now they won't even show their faces. And Kamala Harris is maybe even worse than Joe Biden in this respect. Biden at least had a long career and, held jobs and did things. And it was plausible that Biden could be a guy that maybe was running things until you found out how senile Biden was. With Harris, nobody expects that Kamala Harris can run anything. Ask her anything about foreign policy, and you'll know that whoever the Secretary of State, people in the National Security Council, and all the rest of the stuff, they're going to run the foreign policy of this country, not her. And I think that people will get that if you bring it out to them enough. But what I will also say is this. The people who are the swing voters in this election, are not policy voters. I mean, they may be, on a particular issue, they may have a strong position. The Democrats are hoping they can leverage abortion voters and all this kind of stuff. But on the whole, these are not policy people, because policy people generally subscribe to either, some sort of a conservatism or some sort of a left wing, whether they're liberals or hardcore leftists. I mean, they have a political leaning. Whereas, the true independent voters, they vote on things that are not particularly rational, right? So, a lot of them may not like Trump, but if you scare them enough about, look, you're not going to know who's running the country. You have no idea what they're going to do. What they are going to do is going to not look like America. I think most of those people can pick up on that if you start, doing as Nikki Haley wants to do, these bloodless discussions about tax rates. You're going to miss those people. They're not going to. That's not what motivates them to vote. You have to sell them on a big picture view of America, and really, you have to outscare the Democrats in getting to these people, because they're going to talk about how Trump is a dictator. And, you need to say, well, Kamala's going to make this place Venezuela. And, I think the Venezuela thing makes more sense because you can actually see Venezuela, whereas you really can't see evidence that Trump is a dictator. He was already president for 4 years. And believe me, if he was a dictator, things would have gone a lot different.
Scott McKay, publisher of the Hayride, senior editor at the American Spectator, and author of both Racism, Revenge, and Ruin and King of the Jungle. Scott, thanks as always.
Dan, Amy, have a great day.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
In 2012, the Journal of Cognition and Emotion published a study that showed that we make a decision to trust a person within 100 milliseconds of seeing their face. Making a good first impression has never been more important, and you can make that positive impression with a professional headshot from Tom Killoran Photography. Whether you're a job seeker trying to land your next position, or you're looking to build your business by connecting with prospective clients and customers, you need a high-quality headshot to use with your resume, portfolio, website, or other marketing materials. The experts at Tom Killoran Photography can work with you to capture the exact look you need for your professional presentation. Tom Killoran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see a sample of their work, just visit KilloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN Photography.com. Or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Killoran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.